Hi, everybody. If you're watching this live or on the replay, I just want to say thanks for joining. And we are going to be chatting with Bobby Sood today. And he's going to share his experiences with animal vigils and his vegan journey. So I'm looking forward to our conversation. Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
Fine. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me
Good.
on.
Thank you for joining. I know you have lots
Yeah.
going on, so thank you so much. At the moment, I think we're alone, but people will probably trickle in and out, and I will save it to IGTV so folks can catch up whatever they missed.
Okay, it's fine.
Great. So I want to say, full disclosure, that I saw you on your brother's IG Live
Okay.
the other day, and I was the one asking questions about, well, what happens if a person doesn't feel they can really handle it emotionally in terms of, the vigils and all of that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to see if, Bobby can share a bit about his experience because, I feel strongly that veganism is more than what we eat. And so
Oh,
I really want to take the conversation beyond, what we are consuming in terms of food, but also what we're consuming in terms of information and how we can contribute to the bigger picture and the bigger movement overall.
okay.
So I just want to again thank you so much for taking the time. Thanks for joining. I see someone else is on with us. Thanks so much. And I'm just going to dive right in. And as we go along, we'll take questions. So if you have questions, just pop them down below for Bobby and he'll be happy to answer. So, Bobby, the first question I have for you is if you could please share your vegan journey with us, like how you started and how you arrived to where you are today.
Yeah. It was about almost 6 years ago. And I weighed like 300 pounds. I was type 2 diabetic with heart disease and kidney disease and everything that goes along with someone who's 6 foot, 300 pounds. Um, and my brother was a plant-based nutritionist at the time, or he still is, and he was living in LA. I was living in Austin, Texas. And he asked me if I wanted to come and move in with him and adopt his plant-based lifestyle, which was a whole food, plant-based, low-fat lifestyle. And I didn't really enjoy my job, and my dog had just passed away, so I had nothing keeping me there. So I agreed, and I started my vegan, at the time was plant-based, but journey on January 4th. Uh, would have been 2016, 2015, something like that. And I was living in like a fail-proof environment because I was with my brother, which made it easier. And I highly recommend anyone who's doing that for if they're trying to create life change, either lifestyle change or trying to get healthy. The best thing you can do is try your best to create a fail-proof environment. So there was nothing in the apartment that wasn't plant-based or wasn't low-fat. So even say one day I had a bad day, right, and I wanted to go and like emotionally eat. Okay, so what? I was gonna emotionally eat strawberries. So after a month, I had lost 40 pounds, and I had reversed my diabetes in 6 weeks. And yeah, and that's how it started. Uh, and then I met a friend of my brother's named Jean Pierre, who's a vegan nutritionist and trainer. He's been doing it for like 30 years. He's trained people like Ellen and Joaquin Phoenix and Emily Deschanel. And he is friends with Sean Monson, who directed Earthlings. And he said, hey, my friend Sean and his partner Amy started these pig vigils with this group, or she founded LA Animal Save. And he said, they're having one tonight. Would you like to come with me? And I said, yeah, of course. I'd love to meet Sean and all that because I graduated from college with a degree in film, and I went to the first vigil that night. This was like maybe 6 months or so after, or almost a year after I had gone vegan or plant-based. And I just remember, because I've seen Earthlings, and I'd seen all the Cowspiracy and all these documentaries before, and so you had an idea of what I thought I was going to see, uh, and I wasn't wrong in what I saw, but I wasn't. I had no way to know what the experience was going to be like, and it's this overwhelming, undeniable experience, which is really, that's what makes it so powerful. Because I can watch a documentary on anything, and then turn it off and forget about it, or just say, well, that was just, they were skewing things one way or the other. It's not really like that, and even if a documentary is incredibly compelling, it's still, there isn't, you can only have so much connection to something that's on a screen, you know? So if you go, when I was there and I was connecting with these animals right there in front of me, here's a 6-month-old pig. This is the fourth most intelligent animal on the planet. And he's looking right at me. I'm looking right at him, giving him water. He's just gulping it down because they've been on the truck anywhere from 24 to 60 hours without food or water. And the truck is hot because there's 200 of these pigs in there. It smells. Obviously, you can hear them screaming, or you can hear them drinking down the water, and you can touch them, and you have this full visceral experience, which is very. I imagine some people could, but it seems undeniable to me. And that's where it all started for me. I talked to Sean Monson. I told him I had just got back from Nepal. I was filming a program with orphans there. I told him I was a filmmaker. He said, asked me if I wanted to film a vigil that night, and I did. I gave him the footage, and he came back the next vigil and was talking to me, saying that he has this next project that he wants to do, and he asked me if I wanted to shoot it with him, and that's really how it all started for me.
Right, right. I just want to say hi to everyone who's joining. If you have questions for Bobby, please put them down in the comment section below. And thanks for joining. And so, Bobby, yes, that brings me to your involvement with activism, and you just covered like how you got involved with LA Animals Save.
Yeah.
Um, I am kind of blown away and glad that you brought up the point that it's not the same watching a documentary on our screen where we don't have that touch and feel and smell and sound and energy. I would call it more energy.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm really glad. Oh gosh, I'm getting kind of emotional, but I'm really grateful that you brought it up because that is really the key difference between a person like me who's watched documentaries and a person like you who's been, face to face with the non-human animals who are on their way to be slaughtered. And so I think it's really powerful, like you framed it, that you really cannot compare the two between,
Yeah.
a documentary.
It's the difference between knowing of something and knowing something, which is a pretty powerful difference.
Totally. Totally. So, you've kind of given us a preview of what the vigils are, but if you could please describe a bit more um, your experience with vigils in terms of like what goes on at vigils for folks
Yeah.
who have not seen them firsthand or on film.
Well, so vigils are based on the premise of bearing witness. And this is taken from a Leo Tolstoy quote that, I might misquote this, but it's essentially, it says, when you see someone that's suffering, don't give in to the initial urge to flee. Instead, get closer to that person. Get as close as you can to the one who's suffering and do what you can to help. And that's what we do. So we go to a slaughterhouse. In LA, we go to Farmer John's Slaughterhouse, which is near downtown LA, where they kill 10,000 pigs a day. And we we stand outside. We've had crowds as big as 400 people. The average is between 70 and 150. And a truck will arrive with up to 200 pigs. So they'll have either 200 pigs or 80,000 pounds, whichever comes first. Never more than 200. And we have worked out this relationship with the Vernon Police Department. And we're, that I know of, the only vigil that has done this. Just by being kind and understanding with the police officers that are there. And the police officers have been very kind and understanding that we have our First Amendment rights to peaceful protest. And so the police make sure that every truck stops for 2 minutes. So that we have 2 minutes to give the pigs water, offer them kindness and compassion before they go into the slaughterhouse. And some people go live, take photos, I take photos, share them online, share them with people that, because there are around 800 or 900 chapters of the Save movement worldwide, but there isn't one everywhere. And some people can't just, some people are very far away from a vigil, so they can't go, but they can watch live, or they can look and see the photos that we post. And it's about spreading awareness. But what I think is most important about the Save movement and our philosophy is that we're a love-based movement. And which is what has helped us create this relationship with the police officers, and why we got 3 police officers to try to go vegan and 1 who's still vegan. And we have no hate for truck drivers, and we have no hate for slaughterhouse workers, and we have no hate for police. Animal agriculture does not exist because slaughterhouses exist, and it doesn't exist because truck drivers exist. It exists because there's a product that people are buying.
Consumer demand.
Yeah, and as hard as some people may not want to hear this, or some people may disagree, people own slaughterhouses, especially people who work in slaughterhouses, but even the people who own slaughterhouses are not evil people. They're not doing this because they enjoy it. They're doing it because they're making money, because people are buying it. If they weren't making money, they wouldn't be doing it. And a lot of the times, especially in border states, the employees, a lot of them are undocumented workers. They're very much taken advantage of. They have very poor working conditions, and life is not. No one grows up going, "I want to work in a slaughterhouse." This is like a last resort for them. So we have no hate for them either. So
right,
and I think that's a good philosophy especially for animal rights. Because we want to do more than create awareness. We want to create more vegans. And I think you do that best by showing compassion and understanding, even for the person you're talking to who isn't vegan. Because remember, I don't know, it's got to be an incredibly small amount of vegans that were actually born vegan. All of us were eating meat and dairy at one time in our lives. So
including me.
Oh yeah, I did it for 30 years. All of us should be able to put ourselves in their shoes. We should all be able to do that. So
there is just so much in what you just said, Bobby. Let me try to unpack this a little bit. And I want to say thanks for everyone who's joining. This is for me, it's a very tough conversation, but it's a necessary conversation. And I will read the comments here in a second. But Bobby, those 2 minutes or so that, participants, or those who are, the humans in the vigil, those 2 minutes, my understanding is those are probably the only 2 minutes in those animals, non-human animals' lives, that they've ever experienced compassion and love and caring. Right. Yeah. Right. That's a good point. From humans. Exactly. Yeah. And so for me, I mean, that is just heartbreaking, because as you said, and we talk about this a lot, non-human animals are sentient beings. They have relationships, they love, they feel pain and joy, etc. And a lot of people just don't realize that. And on my vegan journey, I've been watching lots of documentaries, obviously following lots of animal sanctuaries online, and it's just incredible, like, to see the little personalities of each of the non-human animals. the joy that they feel, or some of them are a bit timid, or they take a while to warm up to you, just like humans, you know? And so I just don't know if, you know, if that point is really clear to a lot of people.
It is and it isn't, because this is interesting because we have, you know, like emotional support dogs. So people are willing to accept that dogs are able to sense our emotions and support our emotions and help us calm down and things like that. So on some level, everyone knows that that animals are sentient, that animals are emotional beings. But especially in this country, we put dogs on a different level. You know, like
Speciesism.
oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's hard because you know non-vegans that that live in this country and other countries that treat dogs the same way will shame, say, you know, China for the Yulin Dog Festival, which is horrible, right? Um, while at the same time, you know, the Yulin Dog Festival is about 20 to 50,000 dogs. We're going to kill 50 million turkeys for Thanksgiving this year.
Which makes no sense.
Yeah, and it's exactly the same thing.
It just makes
Yeah,
no sense. And, you know, and I know you were talking earlier, like about the demand and everything. And I want to just backtrack the whole compassion thing, because I know on my vegan journey, I've had to like have compassion for myself first. And sometimes that might seem weird that I'm like thinking of myself first. But, you know, I did give up what we call meat over 20 years ago, but I was still a pescatarian vegetarian. And I gave up meat for a health reason that I had, and not because I was necessarily thinking about the animals, to be honest with you. And my understanding way back then was also, oh gosh, you know, the livestock are like pumped with hormones, and there's just so much junk that's pumped into them, and so of course that's going to enter our human bodies when we consume them. But I was still under the misinformation and you know, under the false understanding that, you know, well, we needed fish for you know, our omegas and protein, and we needed eggs and dairy for blah blah blah.
yeah,
And so I bought into the whole thing too. So I have taken the stance of having compassion for myself first, and then for, like you were saying, non-vegans, because of course we were once non-vegans as well,
yeah,
and of course our beautiful non-human animals. And so I think it's really a good point that you make, like, and that you really stress that you don't, you know, you don't have you know, ill will towards the factory farm workers, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah. I don't, you know, at vigils, I'll hear people that are there for the first time saying things like, "Oh, we can never pay this back. You know, we can never make this up." And I personally, I don't believe in the concept of karmic debt. I think that whatever it is that's in control of the universe, if something is in control, it's beyond the concept of being paid back. I think what it wants most importantly is for us just to get it right. And you know, what happened in the past, that happened in the past, that doesn't exist anymore. The past and the present are nothing more than ever-present delusions. They don't exist. And there's only right now. So what's important is getting it right now. And
I
just
agree.
focus on doing the next right thing. That's it.
I agree. And I'm so glad you said that, because I do find like a lot of you know, folks I follow, and for example, they talk a lot about their past and how they used to, I'll just make this up, sit on the couch and eat whatever's all day, right? And they don't do that anymore. And I find like I just like to like live in the present moment and like plan for the future. Like I don't really like looking back a lot to, you know,
Yeah.
all the nonsense that I did. So I really like how you're putting it, you know, to just kind of focus on the here and now, and then, of course, you know, try to improve in the future.
Yeah.
And mhm,
I mean, this moment right now is your entire life.
totally,
All we
totally,
have is this present moment right now.
totally. And it's a gift, you know, and what we do with it is crucial.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have two comments here. Guapdon Vegan, hi there. He says, I still wonder how it is even legal to slaughter animals. What would you say to that?
Well, I mean, it's just it's human exceptionalism. You know, for a very, very, very long time, we human beings have put themselves above other species. Some humans believe in this concept that we are the pinnacle of evolution and that every other species is trying to somehow catch up to us. which is absurd. And we are the pinnacle of human evolution, just as the chicken is the pinnacle of chicken evolution, and the pig the pinnacle of the pig evolution. And we make these arguments on, well, this one's more intelligent than that one or that one, and I understand its place, but the problem with it is that we are basing that from the human experience. You know, if I tried to be a chicken, all the chickens would look at me like I was an idiot. They'd go, look, this he doesn't know how to be a chicken. What's so hard about it? But he doesn't know how to do it, you know? And so I mean, there's a lot involved in how it's still legal. One, we have subsidies and we have a lot of different, very powerful industries that are tied together. If you look at like big pharma, right? So 80% of the antibiotics produced in the United States are used on farm animals. That's almost their entire antibiotics market. So big pharma doesn't want it to go anywhere, right? And you know, the lobbyist groups for meat and dairy are some of the largest lobbyist groups in the world. And so that makes it almost politically, it doesn't make it a viable political stance if you actually want to succeed in politics to say I'm against animal agriculture. The same with fossil fuels. You know, and we don't live in our government and we don't live in our industries. We live in our lives, right? And so we have to take the responsibility in our lives. If you don't like fossil fuels, stop using them. If you don't want to kill animals, stop eating them. I don't need the government to tell me to do it first, right? So it's legal, but never has legality equaled morality. If we go back, you know, even in our country, you know, it wasn't that long ago there were slaves and it was legal. Doesn't make it right.
No.
Just made it legal.
Right.
You know, women couldn't vote. Didn't make it right. You know, so
right.
Again, and our laws are always changing, and they change from country to country. So to base anyone's moral principles on one country's laws is, you know, and I don't know how we get the government to change. The best thing we can do is, especially in a capitalist country, and I know a lot of people are anti-capitalism recently, but we do get to vote with our dollar in a capitalist country. And we can say, if we don't buy it, we don't want it.
And the demand is going to shift. It's going to shift
exactly.
to plants, and it's already starting.
Oh, especially in the dairy industry. Some of the largest and oldest dairy industries in our companies in the country have gone bankrupt. And shame on them. Shame on them for not pivoting. You know?
And you know, they're seeing like a huge increase in consumption of plant dairy by non-vegans, quote unquote. Yeah. So, like you say, I mean, it's already starting, you know, and we have the power. It's supply and demand. If we demand less, then, you know, the supply will go down.
Absolutely.
And some of them are pivoting to, you know, plants. In other words, you know, away from livestock and into plants. So I have seen reports on that. And I've seen, like, I don't know, there's like, I guess more than one organization. I just know about one that, you know, their role is to help businesses transition from, you know, the animal industry to the plant industry. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and I think it's going to get to a point to where the cost is going to be so much, you know, the margins are going to be so much wider for plant-based products that every other company will have to adjust to survive, you know, because they'll be making such greater profit on plant-based products versus animal-based products. And, you know, maybe that's 10 years away, maybe it's less, I don't know. But, you know, when people say, well, you know, will there ever be, will the country or the world ever be vegan? Well, maybe this long, you know, maybe 100 years from now, maybe 1,000 years from now. But it's amazing how quickly we can accomplish things. I mean, like if you look at the Wright brothers, right? When they flew in 1914, they flew on bicycle plane. It was a plane made out of bicycle parts. If someone then had gone up to them and asked them, do you think we'll ever land on the moon? They probably would have said no, or maybe in a million years, but it was 50 years later. 50
Incredible.
Years later, we landed on the moon. You know,
that is such a good
remarkable
example.
What we're capable of if we know it's possible. You know, we just have to believe that it's possible. And is a vegan planet possible? Is it probable? No. Is it possible? Yes, absolutely, it's possible. So just, you know, you can live in a world of probability, or you can live in a world of possibility.
Totally. No, that's such a good example. We have Vegan Dot. Hi there, saying very good philosophy. Well done. That was a few minutes ago, so I'm trying to catch up here.
Okay.
Um, thanks guys for joining. Please put your questions and comments down below for Bobby, and he'll be happy to answer. So, Bobby, tell us please about where can people find the films that you're making and that LA Animal Save is making and others. Where do we find this footage and these films?
Well, I did. I co-directed a series with Million Dollar Vegan, and you can see that on their Facebook page or their Instagram page. I directed that with Sean Monson, and it's about 60 or 70 different inspiring vegan stories of like how they changed their health and how they, or like how a few of them were soldiers and how they were able to be vegan as soldiers, and different athletes and things like that, and how they improved by adopting a vegan lifestyle. It's more inspiring. People like Paul de Gelder, who was a Australian Navy clearance diver who was attacked by a shark, and he lost his right hand and right leg. And now he's the host of Discovery Channel's Shark Week. He's vegan, and he's dedicated his life to shark conservation and fish conservation, which is another thing. Like I had posted something that you had shared, that talking about 70 billion animals being killed every year for animal. That's just land animals. For some reason, we never use the stats for fish. If you want to know how many animals are killed every year, both land and sea, it's 2 trillion. It's 36. It's about 30 something thousand every second.
Can you please repeat that?
Yeah. So if you include land animals and fish in animal agriculture, we kill 2 trillion animals every year.
That's just ridiculous, number one, and it's staggering, and it's not necessary. I mean,
it's even more staggering when you consider throughout all of human history, 100 billion humans have ever existed. Yeah, we kill 2 trillion animals every year.
That makes zero sense.
Yeah.
And
we raise enough food to feed 70 billion land animals every year, but out of those animals, we don't produce enough food to feed 8 billion people. I mean, we could cure world hunger 14 times over.
Yes.
It wouldn't be a problem.
And my understanding, based on what I've read, is that about 80% of agricultural land is used for livestock.
Yeah.
And that land could be used to produce plants for humans. And rather than breeding,
and you would need so much less land.
Yes, and the animal agriculture industry continues to breed these animals to feed them to humans. But if we didn't have this, vicious cycle that was continuing, we wouldn't need to, first of all, breed to feed, but we wouldn't need to use up 80% of
absolutely
of land.
The number one cause of rainforest destruction is making room for more livestock, or making room to grow more soy to feed that. And 85% of that soy is used to feed livestock, not us. Yeah.
It really makes no sense other than, the economics behind it, and the profit driven and et cetera, that we've discussed, so you already outlined. But that's the only part that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
The whole money machine behind it. But other than that, none of that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to say thanks for joining, guys. And if you have questions for Bobby, please pop them down below. And meanwhile, okay, so Bobby, the films are on Million Dollar Vegan. I guess it's milliondollarvegan.com. And I know I've seen them on Instagram as well.
And you can watch, like, if you wanted to try, and if you haven't seen Earthlings and you want to try and get through it, you can watch that for free on earthlings.com or nationearth.com. Brace yourself. Most people that I talk to get through about 20 minutes before they have to stop. Some people finish it, some people never finish it. It's, no judgment whether you do or don't. Dominion, you can watch Dominion on dominionmovement.com. That one's just a high definition version of Earthlings. So, but you can also watch something like Game Changers.
Yeah.
Which is the best-selling documentary in iTunes history.
Really?
in 1 week.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I must confess that I watched it. A friend had watched it and he had posted about it and I thought, okay, Angel, just watch it. Just watch it. Of course, there was nothing gory in there really, and so I
No.
could, it was very clean, quote unquote. And it was more from the health perspective, so I can definitely get through that one. We have a vegan coach, Kylie. Hi there. She's he or she says he. I mean she. Sorry. It looked. It took. I think. Yeah. It took me 2 days.
To watch her
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
Hi, Kylie. How are you?
Cool.
I know her.
Cool.
She comes to vigils.
Oh la la, brava, brava to you. And what I wanted to say, the other day I admitted to someone on a live that I have not gotten through all of those documentaries. Sometimes I have to stop um, because it's just very emotional.
Sure.
And I mean, I understand already what's going on, and I just, for some reason, I have to also take it in bite sizes, to be honest with you. And I recently watched the International Vegan Film Festival. I didn't get through all of the films, but even there, like if I had a live that day, I had to stop watching them because I was crying so much. And then I would say, okay, well, I'll now that I know that these are very triggering for me, I would only watch them like if I didn't have to face anybody
Yeah.
in that particular segment of time, because it's really hard. It's really hard. And I think that brings us to, and I probably will ask you more questions about the films, but that brings us back to my little points here on the bottom of the screen. So your advice for folks who will will find it hard or who have found it hard emotionally to attend vigils. What's your advice for people who really want to help, but it's just super hard?
Um, well, again, my first advice is that vigils aren't the only way to help. If you can't go to a vigil, there's other things you can do. And you shouldn't beat yourself up if you don't think you can go to a vigil. Uh, Vigils are a strange experience because it's the best and worst of humanity existing in the same place and time. Uh, but a lot of the time when people go to a vigil, especially for their first time, what they'll do is they'll focus on the trucks and they'll focus on the pigs entirely. And then when the if there isn't a truck there or the pigs have gone in, they'll focus on just thinking about what just happened. And they'll never look and see, oh wait, here's 200 beautiful, compassionate people standing here with me, supporting me in the same place I am. And it's I think whatever you're doing, uh, community is the most important thing to have in your life. Uh, a community that is involved in the same things that you are. If it's going to a vigil, it's a community of people who know what you're going through because they suffer alongside with you, and they know how to support you because they know what they need as well. And I don't. That's the best advice I can give. Is community. Find your outlets, both physical and intellectual. I box and I read poetry. So I've got to do both. I don't want to just be angry and boxing, so I've got to go and remind myself that the world is a beautiful place by reading poetry
Yeah,
at the same
yeah.
time. So,
Oh my
find
God.
your outlets and find your community. That's the best thing you can do.
That's beautiful. Okay, so we have a few comments here. Well, there's a hey Bobby from Kylie. There is your brother,
Yeah.
plant-based plant-based addict, who says, Bobby, show us Stella.
Stella is she's asleep right there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's nap time. I,
Yeah.
I don't think we should disturb Stella because she has to
No,
get
it's
she has
not.
to get her beauty rest, right?
Yeah.
So definitely I don't recommend we disturb Stella.
No.
But you know better than I do. And then Kylie says, my dad was very motivated by Game Changers, and that led him to doing my 8-week course, which includes a week where we watch Earthlings Dominion or A Land of Hope and Glory. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah, it's really heavy duty, but I say bravo. And we
And
have Vegan Dot saying, well done, Kylie.
did I wonder did your if their dad actually watch those movies? Because my whole family's vegan now, but my dad will never watch those movies.
It's
Never.
hard. It's hard. I mean, for me, once I was convinced, well, I started for health reasons, as I explained, but once I was convinced, and then of course I learned about the animal cruelty and death and suffering. I also felt like I didn't really have like 100,000% reason to watch all of them, to be honest, besides the emotional toll. Oh well, Kylie just gives little hugs here.
Somebody
uh,
asked about
she says
having a
he watched
cat.
a minion.
Somebody says, I have a question about how to go about feeding cats by being vegan.
Oh,
Okay, so as far as the science that I've read, it's that cats are obligate carnivores, right? So they have to eat meat, right? It's not the same thing as us. We're not obligate carnivores. We're herbivores, right? It wasn't my plan to have a cat. I found her outside. She was about the size of a soda can when I found her, and she had these horrible eye infections, and so. But I don't see the problem with vegans having cats. You know, it's not as though you're needlessly feeding them animal products. That is their biology. You know, they are obligate carnivores.
I
So
mean that's why they I don't know if they eat the birds or and the rats, but I know you do find them
yeah.
that the cats have
Now
ended up
dogs
killing.
can be
That's
vegan.
their nature.
Yeah, but yeah, as far as I mean, if it's an obligate carnivore, to do the opposite of their biology would be cruel. To force a
Yeah,
cat that can't survive on plants or an animal that can't survive on plants to make them eat plants would be cruel.
yeah, yeah. But you're right. I do think the dogs have a huge appetite for plants.
Oh yeah,
They
so the
really
dog.
do.
It's interesting. You know, we domesticated the dog. We took wolves very long time ago, and we bred them all the way down to dogs. Cats domesticated themselves. So where dogs, their biology has evolved alongside ours, cats have remained carnivores. So dogs are perfectly fine on a plant-based diet. You know, they don't need the same sort of like the taurine, the amount of taurine that cats need and things like that. So yeah.
Okay, good. We have Kylie who said he watched Dominion, and also I had a client who watched all three in a row in 3 days that week. Whoa, that's awesome. And then Plant-Based Addict says here, Adam, yes, cats are obligate carnivores and will not survive on a vegan diet. There's no issue with feeding them what they need. And Kylie says, agreed. Do you have a preferred food for your cat?
I don't right now. I mean, I'm using Royal Canin, which is what a friend of mine who's a groomer told me to feed her because she needs kitten food. She's still a kitten. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my cousin joined also.
Awesome. Hi, cousin. And Vegan Dot says, yeah, I heard that too, but it's so hard for me to choose which animal I kill for my cat when I buy cat food. I don't want to do that, but I love my cats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard. Um,
Yeah.
just try and find the best product that you can. Uh,
Yeah. And then Kylie says, unfortunately, this is a problem people have created. That is so true.
yeah.
Um, so, guys, keep your questions coming. Meanwhile, we're going to fly through our topics here. So, if a person, as we were just discussing, doesn't feel like emotionally they can handle a vigil, and you did say there are other, you know, things that a person can do to help. So, what would be some of those suggestions on your part for?
Well, there's like the Save movement has Save Squares, or Anonymous to the Voiceless does the Cubes of Truth. Those are really good. People will stand in a square holding iPads or TVs, playing slaughterhouse footage, and so people come up and look at it, and then they'll have people doing outreach. That's a good way of doing it. If you don't even want to go that far, I mean, even if you're just at the grocery store, right, and you're picking out some, soy milk or oat milk, and you see someone reaching for dairy milk, even if you just say to them, "Have you tried oat milk?" That's activism right there. Just as long as you're trying to spread awareness in whatever way you can, that counts. You don't have to be a frontline activist. You don't have to sneak into slaughterhouses for footage. That doesn't Just because you're not doing that doesn't mean you're not an activist. It's just doing whatever you got to look out. You got to take care of ourselves. You know, some people, some of us can have surrendered themselves to being able to go into slaughterhouses, and some people don't want to go that far, which is fine. You know, you do what you can, and it also means putting yourself in positions where you're around people that aren't vegans. You know, I hear all the time, oh, I don't want to go home for the holidays. You know, my family's not vegan. It's like, yeah, but they're your family, right? So whatever happens, they're not doing anything. They're not the way they are just to hurt your feelings. That's just, they are, they haven't made that shift yet. They haven't changed yet. And nobody goes vegan because of one thing, especially not because of one conversation, right? So we have to understand what our impact, what kind of impact we can realistically make on people. And when someone says, I went vegan because I saw Earthlings, well, that was the last thing you saw that made you go vegan, right? We have this entire life experience, this very complex life experience that started when we were first born and we were vegan, because we as human beings are right? And
Yeah,
we believe that
totally.
all life matters and that everyone and everything is equal, and I have unconditional love for everything. And we believed that until someone told us different, and we believed them. And then we started, you know, we would see movies like Dumbo and Bambi and, you know, Babe and all those movies. All of those were conditioning you back to being vegan. You know, all of those experiences, every pet you ever had, or everyone, or if your dog's, you know, your friend's dog that you would play with, you know, if you didn't have pets, all of those are experiences of, you know, opening up your awareness to the fact that these are sentient beings, that all life matters. So, and then, you know, 30 years later, you saw Earthlings, and that was it. You know, so that was just the last thing.
Yeah,
So when you
yeah.
go and you do outreach with somebody who's 50 years old and has had over 50,000 different meals in their life, most of them all being with animal products. So you've got your 5-minute conversation against 50,000 examples of conditioning. Let's have some realistic expectations of what we can accomplish. And it's really just about creating these tiny shifts in consciousness, you know, as often as we can. It's never going to be one giant shift that's like, they're not vegan, now they're vegan. Maybe that happens once in a blue moon, I don't know, but most of the time that's not it. You know, just get people aware of it, get them thinking about it, you know, get them to understand, okay, I never thought about it like that. I'm still going to keep living my lifestyle eating animals, but now they're going to think about it.
It's
You
like
know, and
planting
even if
seeds,
they're
like
going,
little drops in the ocean.
yeah, exactly. Even if they're saying like, well, I'll eat anything, to, well, now I only want to eat grass fed. That means they are considering something about the condition of those animals' lives, right? They have changed. There's been a shift, and that's important. And it may not be everything that we want right now, but we can't be so myopic. We have to understand that human beings are complex, and that we aren't making decisions because we're good or bad, or that we're evil or just. Every decision we make takes into account every experience we've had in our lives.
And there's so
And
much
so it's easier.
conditioning.
It's easier for some. It's harder for others, because some people have had harder lives. Some people have had easier lives. You know, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
It would be so easy if the world was so binary, but it's not. You know.
And there's so much conditioning and marketing and all of that stuff too.
Yeah.
We have Kylie saying, thanks for sharing. And also, it's uncomfortable for me every time. Just remember, you are reducing suffering as much as possible. And Vegan Dot says, thanks, Kylie. I wish it would be a better solution. Kylie never knew about Save Squares. When did this begin?
Save Square started the very first sort of like square or circle thing was the Earthlings experience. That was after the movie Earthlings came out. They started the Earthlings experience, and Anonymous for the Voiceless copied that model and made Cubes of Truth. And the Save movement made Save Squares, which we haven't done much in the U.S., but we're trying to bring them back, because it's just, there's no reason we shouldn't be doing them, you know. So
Totally.
yeah,
Totally.
hopefully there's gonna be more Save Squares. But if there isn't a Save Square yet, you can, you know, Cube of Truth. I think Earthling's experience is only happening in the UK. I haven't seen it here in the US, but yeah.
Okay. Kylie says, I've always appreciated the way you speak about this, Bobby. Yes,
Oh,
no, he does have a way for sure. For sure. So, Bobby, we have 15 minutes left. So, what do you say to naysayers about the involvement of humans in vigils? In other words, I know, like when you were speaking earlier, something came to me about when you were talking about the difference between watching a documentary on a screen and actually being there. And one of the things that came to me, Bobby, was that I feel like sometimes people are going to say that's not real. That can't, it can't be as bad as that, because I think that was my reaction when I first saw um I don't know if they were like memes, or I don't know what the real word is, but like drawings of how dairy cows are hooked up to machines, and all the horrible
yeah.
things that happen to those beautiful animals. And I just said to myself, that can't be true. But this was many years ago. Like, this can't be true. And so I'm wondering, like, for people who just don't believe that it's that bad, or like, what's the point in going to vigils? What do you say to those naysayers and critics?
Well, like, I mean, if the criticism is that this form of activism isn't doing enough, uh, I would say, do you only run or do you also walk? Like, is the world a better place without vigils, or is it a better place with vigils? Right? There's no reason that different forms of activism can't coexist. Just because you want to run and you believe that vigils are walking, I can walk a lot further than I can run, right? And so, like, there's no reason that you can't do both. I can both walk and run. So, and this idea that that action that I'm taking right now is the only action I ever take is something that vegans should, that should be an argument that we should find ridiculous, because how often do we hear that vegans only care about animals? Uh, for people, that say, oh, that's one very good reason why I think that vigils are so important, is that people believe that what they see is the exception and not the rule. People believe that, oh, this must not be in the United States, and that was actually the antithesis for Dominion. Chris Delforce had his friends over and they were watching Earthlings, and one of his friends said, well, look how old this is. This doesn't happen anymore, and it doesn't happen here in Australia. And Chris said, well, yeah, it does, and I'll show you. And he made Dominion. But that's the way the human ego works. It wants to keep you safe. It wants psychologically to keep you safe, and we want to maintain this idea of animal agriculture, the animals being plural and vague, that it's pigs that die at Farmer John's, not 10,000 individual pigs that die at Farmer John's every day. And so we don't individualize them, we don't recognize them, and we want to keep them vague and plural and generalized. And that makes it easier for us. It's willful ignorance. It makes it easier for us to get through our day and to say that I'm not a bad person. And you're not a bad person if you eat animals. You just haven't had that awakening yet. Like you said, it's conditioning, and the conditioning isn't from some sinister plot. It's just the way our parents were raised and their parents were raised, and it's all because at one point in human history, we went right instead of going left. We kept going when we should have stopped. We just took the wrong path, and we ended up here. And we had all these societies and cultures created all these different things that they passed down from generation to generation. And because we did that, we mistaken it for knowledge. And it's not. It's just some mistake that we keep making and we think it's right. But it's not done out of it's not done out of malice or evil intent. It's just, and this idea, I hear vegans, not all of them, I hear some people saying that unless you're vegan, you don't love animals. I can't stand that statement.
Yeah, that's pretty harsh.
Well, I can understand where they're coming from, that like,
Yeah.
if you love something, you wouldn't treat it this way. But
Yeah.
I can tell you that 1000%, I loved animals before I was vegan.
Me
I loved
too.
animals
Me
as much as I do
too.
now before I was vegan. I just hadn't had that awakening, that shift in consciousness that said, you're capable of greater love. I hadn't had it yet,
Totally.
but like, there's no way that, I mean, I have always loved animals. And if I didn't, I certainly wouldn't have gone vegan, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
No
yeah.
one who hates animals goes vegan. So
So we have some
we have to create this inclusive messaging, not exclusive messaging.
totally, totally. We have Kylie. Ego wants to reinforce your beliefs rather than allow you to change it. Yeah, people get very defensive, very protective of their positions, and it's like a personal attack they feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have Vinayak Jane. I'm from India. Movement is just starting here, but still, average person doesn't haven't heard the word vegan, and it's hard to have the conversation because it's so normalized and part of the culture.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunately and I learned this from an evolutionary psychologist named Dr. Doug Lisle, that human beings, we sort of unconsciously we rank people in our lives. We don't do it because we're mean. We do it, and we that creates an order in our life of where we stand with our friends and where our friends stand with us in terms of how important people are. And when someone decides to go vegan, that moves them in the order. They're improving themselves, and unconsciously we don't like that because that screws up our whole order. So people, even though it's good for them, and we know it's like great, you're gonna go vegan, yay! People will say, ridicule them and try and get them back in place, back where my life now makes sense, and that's all unconscious. They don't. It's not because that they're mean. It's just what we do.
Yeah,
And
that's a very good point.
yeah, it's just struggling. There's a book called The Pleasure Trap that he wrote. It's really, really good, and it helps you sort of navigate these pitfalls and the way that people are going to treat you and how like the language to use so that you're not so triggering to them.
The
Like if you
pleasure
say
trap. The pleasure
the
trap.
pleasure trap, like if you
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I'm going vegan," oh well, your friend goes, "Well, why?" You say, "Well, I started reading this book. I haven't finished it yet, but it seems to make sense to me." If you haven't finished it yet, you're not the master yet. Even if you have finished it, say, I haven't finished it yet. So then maybe they'll go read it and they'll read the whole thing. Say, I finished it. And you say, oh, cool. Did you like it? Still haven't finished mine, even if you have. Make them think that they're the master and you're the
Yeah.
pupil. That's where people like to be.
Yeah, the
Think of that.
hierarchy. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that is powerful.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I never thought of that. That is a good
Yeah.
one.
It is. Yeah.
So, hi, welcome to Chile says, yes, when I look at animals, I see friends, not food. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Ay, 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 we have 7 minutes. So, what do you say to non-vegans who criticize our lifestyle and diet? I know you talked about, those who criticize the vigils, right? And that you're saying, making some steps forward, walking instead of running, we're still making progress. In other words, that's how I interpret it. But what do you say to people who are like, kind of bashing our vegan diet and lifestyle?
I don't take it personally. It says more about them than it does about me. Uh, and there's, like as a general rule, I tend to believe that people who are doing less, people who are doing more than someone else, they don't criticize people that are doing less than them. They criticize people that are doing more than them. Veganism to a lot of people that aren't vegan seems like this Spartan-esque strength of will, something very difficult. And, they don't even want to test themselves. It's not. It's certainly not that at all. But so they're going to ridicule you and make you look, like, oh, you're the weird one. I'm not. So that they never have to test themselves and they never have to look at themselves. People who say hurtful things are hurting themselves. They themselves are hurting. Someone who's living a wonderful, happy life is not going to go around insulting people. They're not.
That's a
So
good one.
it's like my family's Jewish. I'm Jewish. If I'm walking down the street and someone walks up with a swastika on his face, I'm not going to be offended. I'm not, because one, that just tells me to feel sorry for this individual. who was so in need of finding his place somewhere that he ended up with that stupid tattoo on his face, you know? And that tattoo says everything about him, nothing about me. And it's not personal because I don't know him and he doesn't know me. It can't be personal. And so we just, we choose what we're offended by. You can choose to be offended by something or not. I can choose to like walk past somebody who has a swastika on their face and let that, not even interaction, but that tiny moment ruin my entire day, or not, you know?
Yeah, that's a powerful
Yeah,
example. Thank you for that.
yeah.
We have Kylie who says, haha, I love that. Will this live be saved somewhere after? Would like to share with my clients. Yeah, it's going to be on IGTV. I'm going to post it once we finish, and Bobby will have the link. So yeah, you guys can just check back on IGTV. So Bobby, we have 4 minutes left. um, we're gonna skip couple of questions here because I need you to tell us, please, which other projects, vegan related, that you're working on, and how people can contact you for more information, collaboration.
Well, there's a film that I've been working on with Sean for a few years now. That's, we're kind of in a holding pattern with the whole quarantine and all of that. I had produced a vegan travel show. It was an international show, so we're in a holding pattern on that. We were in Israel and Ireland, which was a lot of fun. And I just did a collaboration with Vegan Club with some of my photos. So Vegan Club is going to be producing posters and T-shirts with some of my photography and the Vegan Club slogan on it. But yeah, like I think that, if what I want to tell people is that in any situation, no matter what it is, you can always choose to be kind, no matter what, right? So if for no other reason, this is like sort of like my slogan. If for no other reason, be kind because it's humanly possible to do so, right? And you're gonna have a better day. You're gonna have a better life if you're just kind, because it costs you no more to be kind than unkind. And no matter how rude someone's being, you can still be kind to them. You can.
And you'll feel better.
You will feel better, yeah. And most of the time, if someone's being rude to you, they're hurting. And they don't know how to express it, and they don't know how to communicate it with somebody. And so they want you to hurt as well, so that way it creates some sort of understanding between the two of you. You're hurting, I'm hurting. Instead, just be kind to them, and maybe they'll open up to you and go, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. I'm having a terrible day. Someone yells at you in the grocery store, just say, wow, man, listen, I didn't mean to do it. Whatever it was I did that upset you, I'm sorry. I've had bad days too. And, I hope your day gets better. No offense whatsoever. Sometimes when people will say, still be angry. So what? They were angry before, cost you nothing. Or they'll say, you know what? You're right. I apologize for that. I am having a bad day. Maybe you can have a conversation and help them out,
Yeah. So, Bobby, where can people contact you? Again, information, collaboration.
My Instagram, which is at Bobby Sud. On Facebook, I'm under Robert Sud. And then you can look up LA Animal Save, or at LA Animal Save, or the savemovement.org, and find out information. If you can look and see if there's a chapter near you, or if you're in LA, you can find out the schedule. And if you want to message me and come to a vigil, please do that. And yeah, pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, Bobby, we have run out of time, but I want to thank you so much for taking the time and explaining all of this to us. And
Thank you.
my pleasure, I'm going to post it now because we have like less than a minute. So I don't want to lose it. So thank you
Okay.
so much. And I'll message you right after.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
thanks everybody for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.